AI is not about to replace all junior developers, but it may already be replacing the reason companies used to hire them. And that is a much bigger problem. AI can do the boilerplate, the first draft, the low risk bug fixes, the repetitive glue work. Then the danger is not the software engineering disappears. The danger is that the first rung of the ladder disappears. And when the first rung disappears, fewer people ever become great engineers in the first place. And the weird part is the big picture data and the junior level data are telling two completely different stories. That's what makes this debate so confusing. Every time this topic comes up, the internet gives you the stupid answers. One side says AI will replace all programmers, the other side says, relax, AI is just a tool, nothing changes. Both are wrong. So in this video, I want to break this down using three things: real labor market data, real developer survey data, and real evidence about what these models can and cannot actually do. Not hype, not vibes, not screenshots of a chatbot building a to-do app in 5 minutes, because once you look at all three together, the real answer is a lot of more comfortable. The third part is the part most people never look at. In the US, the Bureau of Labor Statistics projects overall employment for software developers, QA analysts, and testers to grow 15% from 2024 to 2034, with about 129 200 openings a year on average for software developers specifically. The projection is 16% growth. That is not the picture of a profession getting wiped out. And globally, the World Economic Forum is not saying AI destroys all knowledge work either. In 2025 Future of Jobs data says job disruption will be significant by 2030, but still projects 170 million roles created and 92 million displaced for a net gain overall. It also says AI, big data, and cybersecurity are among the fastest growing skills areas. More than two-thirds of employers plan to hire for AI-specific roles. If somebody tells you very confidently that AI means there won't be software jobs, that is not what the broad labor data says. But now here's the detail almost nobody talks about. The BLS separates computer programmers from software developers, and that distinction matters a lot. Computer programmer employment is projected to decline 6% from 2024 to 2034, while software developers are projected to grow. And BLS explicitly says repetitive programming work continues to be automated, including by AI, while some higher skilled programming tasks shift towards software developers. That is a huge clue. The market is not saying no more software people. The market is saying narrower code production work is more compressible than broader engineering work. That's the first truth. So if the profession isn't dead, why does it feel so brutal for beginners right now? Because the second truth is this: the junior crunch is real. Stanford researchers using high frequency ADP payroll data found that early career workers aged 22 to 25 in the most AI exposed occupations experienced a 16% relative employment decline after controlling for firm level shocks. They specifically describe exposed fields, including software development, and shows that the adjustment is showing up more in employment than compensation. The first pain is showing up in who gets hired and kept, not just in wages. That alone should make you stop and think. Because if AI were just a harmless assistant, you wouldn't expect the pain to show up first in the youngest workers in the most AI exposed jobs. And Stanford's own follow-up makes the point more carefully. They do not say AI is the sole explanation for every hiring problem. They explicitly say there are other forces involved. But even after trying to control for broader firm level efforts, they still found the relative decline for highly exposed young workers becomes notable in 2024. Then you look at job posting data and it gets even more interesting. Reveille Labs found that entry-level roles requiring at least some college were down by more than 35% versus January 2023. In tech, entry-level demand was down about 25%, and when they split jobs by AI exposure, highly AI exposed entry-level roles were down by more than 40%, worse than the other categories. Their regression analysis found that a 10-point increase in AI exposure was associated with an 11% decrease in entry-level demand by a 7% increase in non-entry-level demand. That is not a suitable result. It basically says the more AI can do in a role, the more dangerous that role becomes for beginners, while experienced workers may actually benefit. Now, to keep this honest, there is an important nuance. LinkedIn January 2026 labor market report says entry-level roles overall have not been disproportionately impacted relative to experienced roles, and that for software engineers specifically, entry-level and experienced workers now face similar hiring conditions as demand softened. But LinkedIn also shows record computer science graduate output colliding with record low entry-level software engineering hiring. That nuance matters because the honest conclusion is not AI alone killed junior jobs. The honest conclusion is the market got tighter for multiple reasons, and AI is making the beginner bottleneck worse exactly where routine, junior friendly work can be compressed. That's the second truth. And now we get to the part where people misunderstand why juniors can get hit even if AI still can't do the whole job. Here's the economic logic. Companies never hired junior developers because juniors were instantly more productive than seniors on day one. They hired juniors because there was a bundle of work that was low risk enough and scoped enough and repetitive enough for juniors to learn on, things like first drafts, boilerplate, simple endpoints, repetitive factors, basic test writing, cleanup tasks, documentation, straightforward tickets, and turning clear instructions into code. That bundle mattered because it justified the cost of training. Now think about what modern AI coding tools are best at. Not owning a production system end to end, not making product trade-offs, not debugging messy organizational reality, not negotiating requirements with humans. They are best at accelerating well-specified first-pass work. And that is exactly why junior roles are vulnerable first. This is the part people get wrong. AI does not have to replace the entire junior developer role to damage junior hiring. It only has to replace enough of the junior friendly task bundle that the economics of hiring change. If one senior or mid level developer with strong AI tooling can absorb work that can use to justify one or two junior hires, nobody has to announce we replaced juniors with AI. They just stopped opening the rec, or they backfill one role instead of three, or they decide the team can stay lean for now. This is how this shift will often show up in real life, not as a dramatic layoff headline, as a quieter disappearance of beginner opportunities. But here's the catch. That still doesn't mean AI can fully replace a junior developer role inside a real software team. This is where the hype crowd loses me because once you move beyond demos, the evidence gets much messier. Anthropic's March 2026 Economic Index says coding remains the single biggest use case on Claude, with computer and mathematical tasks accounting for 35% of conversations. So, yes, coding is absolutely one of the main places AI is already being used. But Anthropic also says that across the broader computer and math category, Claude currently covers only about 33% of all tasks. In other words, usage is real, but full task coverage is still far from reality. Anthropic's own farming is basically that actual usage still falls well short of theoretical capability. That gap matters because AI helps with a lot of coding tasks is true, AI can now replace software engineers as a whole is way too strong. OpenAI's SWE Lancer benchmark says something similar from a different angle. OpenAI built it from more than 1,400 real freelance software engineering tasks worth about $1 million in real world payouts. And their conclusion was that frontier models were still unable to solve the majority of tasks. That should immediately make you more skeptical of anyone saying the model can code, so junior developers are over. Real software work is not just make code appear, it's understand context, handle ugly constraints, make trade-offs, notice what the ticket forgot to mention, understand how the system actually behaves, not how the prompt describes it. And the productivity evidence is not one-sided either. MITR ran a randomized control trial with experienced open source developers working in their own repositories and found that when they used early 2025 AI tools, they took 19% longer on average. Even more interesting, the developers expected AI to speed them up, but in that setting, it slowed them down. That doesn't mean AI is useless, it means the real question is context. Fast on greenfield prototype work? Sometimes yes. Fast on repetitive transformations? Often yes. Fast inside a messy, high context repo with standards, review requirements, and hidden edge cases? Not automatically. And the developer survey data lines up with that tension. Stack Overflow's 2025 survey says 84% of respondents are using or planning to use AI in development, and early career developers had the highest daily use rate of 55.5%. So ignoring AI is obviously stupid. But the same survey says more developers actively distrust AI output than trust it. 46% versus 33%, with only 3% saying they highly trust the output. It also says developers show the most resistance to using AI for high responsibility, systematic tasks like deployment and monitoring, while 76% don't plan to use it, and project planning, where 69% don't plan to use it. And that tells you exactly what's going on. AI is strong enough to reshape the workflow. It is not trustworthy enough to remove human judgment. And when that happens, the people who benefit most are often the people who already have enough judgment to supervise the system. And that tells you exactly what's going on. AI is strong enough to reshape the workflow. It is not trustworthy enough to remove human judgment. And when that happens, the people who benefit most are often the people who already have enough judgment to supervise the system. That means seniors get amplified, beginners get squeezed. That's the third truth. So here's my real contrarian take. The immediate danger is not AI replaces junior developer. The immediate danger is AI replaces junior developer apprenticeship, and this is arguably worse for the profession. Because every strong senior engineer you know was shaped by years of seeing weird bugs, ambiguous tickets, broken deployments, architecture mistakes, user pain, rollback decisions, security concerns, communication failures, and code reviews chaos. That experience has to come from somewhere. If companies decide AI can handle the boring layer of work and then use that as an excuse to shrink entry pathways, they may get short-term efficiency while quietly damaging the future talent pipeline. The World Economic Forum has already warned that narrowing entry paths can create a talent pipeline problem with long-term implications, and this is why the whole debate is framed badly. People ask, can AI do what a junior developer does? Wrong question. The better question is, can AI do enough of the work that companies normally trust juniors to do, that hiring fewer juniors starts to look rational? The answer is clearly yes in some environments, but that still doesn't solve the long-term industry problems of where future seniors come from. And this is where the winners and losers start to separate. The loser in this shift is not the junior developer as a category. The loser is the junior developer whose only value is turning clear instructions into first draft code. That is the part of the market getting commoditized. The winner is the junior who can use AI and verify AI, use AI and debug AI, use AI and test AI, use AI and explain trade-offs to humans. In other words, less typist, more operator, less I can code this eventually, more I can help ship this safely, and the broader labor data actually supports that direction. The WEF says more than two-thirds of the employer plan to hire for AI-specific roles, and that 39% of the workers' core skills are expected to change by 2030. PwC's 2025 Global AI Jobs Barometer adds a second layer to that. PwC says jobs in more AI-exposed occupations still grew 38% from 2019 to 2024, but the skills in the most AI-exposed jobs are changing 66% faster, and workers with AI skills command a 56% wage premium on average. PwC also says degree requirements have been falling faster in more AI-exposed roles. This is a really important signal. The market is not shouting humans are obsolete. The market is shouting your old skill stack expires faster now. That is a completely different message. So, what should a junior developer do with all of this? First, do not position yourself as someone who can patiently write code from scratch better than a model can spit out of a first draft. That is terrible pitch in 2026. Position yourself as someone who can produce reliable output inside an AI-assisted workflow. That means showing you can break down ambiguous problems, generate options, verify output, write tests, catch hallucinations, read existing code bases, explain trade-offs, and communicate clearly with humans. That is much harder to replace because it mixes tools, judgment, context, and accountability. Second, your portfolio has to change. Tutorial clones are weak. A much stronger signal now is here was the problem, here's how I used AI, here's what it got wrong, here's how I tested it, here's how I changed, here's why I chose this design instead of obvious one. What kind of portfolio proves something much more valuable than I can type code? It proves you can supervise output, optimize for domains where mistakes are expensive. When correctness, maintainability, security, compliance, or system understanding matter, the human who can verify and own the result becomes more valuable than the human who only produces draft code. Don't confuse using AI with being AI native. Early career developers are already the heaviest daily users in the Stack Overflow survey, but the same survey shows trust is low and high responsibility use remains limited. So the winning move is not blind adoption, it's disciplined adoption. And finally, be honest about the market. Will AI replace junior developers? My answer is not as a profession, not all at once, not in clean sci-fi way people imagine, but it is replacing chunks of junior level work. It is compressing some entry level demand, and it is forcing the juniors who do get hired to show more value earlier. That is why these two statements can both be true at the same time. Software engineering still has a future, and breaking into software is getting harder. So, no, I would not tell people to stop learning software engineering, but I would tell them this: don't train for a 29 junior developer job in 2026 market, and train for a world where code is cheaper, judgment is more valuable, and the first rung is thinner than it used to be. Because that's the real shift. AI is not deleting the profession, it's deleting the easy path into the profession. And the people who understand that early will adapt faster than the people still arguing about whether AI can build a calculator app. The next myth that naturally follows this one is even bigger. Is AI actually making developers more productive, or is that mostly hype too?